everybody, 6-speed Dakota here, and today we are working on a 5-speed Dakota. Funny how that works. So, this is a neighbor of mine, and the coolant in this truck is disgusting. It looks like mud. So we're going to change it today, as well as the thermostat. So, try not to do this when it's flaming hot like this one is, but I don't have a whole lot of time to deal with this, so let's get down to business. Some of the stuff you're going to need. For parts, you're going to need a new thermostat, and of course a new gasket. And of course you're going to need coolant. Make sure you get concentrated coolant. Don't pay for water and get premixed. You're going to need a suitable drain bucket. You're going to need a 3/8 ratchet, a fairly long extension, and a 13mm or 1/2 inch socket to get down in there. Assorted pairs of pliers, and that all in the good likes. Anyway. And the like. So, first thing we're going to start by doing now, usually I'd pop the rad cap, but again this thing is flaming hot and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go underneath and start draining the radiator. Okay, so looking from the driver's side of the truck, if we come down here in front of the front wheel and look actually inside the bumper, if I can get my light in there at the same time, we notice that we see right there is the coolant drain. I'm actually touching it right now. I believe that's it. Right there. There's the coolant drain. So this is actually inside the bumper shell in front of the frame here. Now what we need to do, if I can hang my light up, is we need to take a pair of pliers and loosen it. Now I've already loosened this somewhat. Anyway, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. So loosen this off until the coolant starts to drain out the bottom. As we let it drain, we can see how truly nasty this stuff really is. It's not even clear anymore. So now that it's starting to drain, what we can do is we can crack the rad cap. Here it start to flow a little bit faster. Take it right off. It should flow even faster. There we go. See just how nasty this looks in there. Like that is, let me get the light. Don't ever let your cooling system get that bad looking. That is like all rust in there and everything else. We definitely have to clean that out. Alright, so while the cooling system continues to drain, what we're going to do is we're going to take the upper rad hose. Now that it's below the level of the upper rad hose, this guy is actually loose for some weird reason or another. Not sure what that guy does, but I'm assuming it's probably important, although it doesn't feel like it's clamping on anything. Anyhow, there is a spring clamp way down in there. And that thing's a real pain in the ass to get off. Try plan B. Alright, so using a long pair of needle nose pliers, get down in there, squeeze this stupid spring clamp, and remove it. Now that coolant hose should be loose. We will pull it off. Oh, that is really bad looking. Oh, wow. That's why you service your cooling system on a regular basis. Holy cow. This is probably the worst one I've seen yet. Alright, now, taking our 13mm socket plus our long extension on our 3/8 ratchet, we get all the way down in there. Now there's one bolt. There's two bolts that hold it on. They're kind of here. So one's closest to the AC compressor, kind of in the front right quadrant when you're looking at it. One is closest to the alternator in the back, kind of at the back left quadrant. No, just be easy on it here. Don't force any of these, because these are threading into aluminum. And by the way that this cooling system looks, there's a chance that that thing's really stuck in there. That one's loose. There we go. So loosen these 2 bolts off. And it looks like this water neck's already starting to leak a bit. It's a good thing we got to it when we did. There we go. Alright, so to save us a little bit of grief, maybe not. There we go. This guy just pulls up and out. Oh wow. That's pretty disgusting. There's the other bolt right there. Alright, now we're going to take our long nose pliers again and take the thermostat and yank it out. That came out surprisingly easy. Now on these ones there's no gasket that goes around the lip, typically like a GM does. Oh wow, this is really, really bad. Okay, so we got that out. We got our lower rad hose off. Our upper rad hose, my mistake. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go underneath and remove the lower rad hose. So if we look straight down from the top right there, there's the clamp for the lower rad hose, and it goes right down underneath there. So we're going to have to wrestle that clamp off and pull our lower rad hose off. So if we look from the top here and we notice there's our water pump right there, if I can just twist the camera just that little bit, right there's the water hose that goes out underneath there, all the way up to the front. Now I prefer to take it off the water neck so that I can let that hose hang down and drain. So that's what I'm going to do. It's purely up to you whether you want to take it off over here or down underneath there. Whatever one's easiest. And I think actually... So I got the lower rad hose off and aimed in a bucket. I have the cooling system drain closed for now. Now what we're going to do, and I got the rad cap back on because the rad cap is in line here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and turn it over. Just pour fresh clean water in there. It should get high enough to where it would drain out the other side, I hope. There it is. Oops. It sounds like it's missing. Alright, so after the radiator is fully flushed and it's coming out clear, no more coolant left in it, then you can backflush it like this. So using the lower rad hose and putting pressure through it, letting it pour out the other end. Now that's just running clear now on the other side of the radiator. So we may be in good shape. So after that's done, now I've already actually jumped a step ahead. Now, of course, we're not disposing of any coolant down the drain. All the coolant is totally gone. All we're doing, now that all the coolant's gone, is we're just trying to flush all of the rust out of the system. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our hose and we're going to go down and spray it into the engine. Now I've already flushed the engine completely. That's why I'm letting it drain out the other side, but I'm going to continue flushing. just to force all the rust out of the system, because this was probably the worst I've seen so far. Now again, I'm not disposing of any coolant down the storm drain. That would be unethical and irresponsible and just plain bad. Don't be a bad guy. Anyhow, what I can try and do is get the hose underneath there. It's a little close to the ignition coil for my liking, but I can see some of it coming out. There it goes. We're back flushing the engine right now, flushing it in the reverse direction. And again, in an effort to clean all the rust out of the cooling system. And I don't see any rust coming up, so I think we're in good shape now. All the water coming out is clear. Of course, that's a good thing. There's no more rust, and there definitely isn't any coolant. I'm not disposing of any coolant down the storm drain. Never. I'm I don't. So, those of you who think you can give me hell for this, I never ever do that, ever. It's stupid to do that. So why would I ever dispose of any coolant down the storm drain? I'm not disposing of coolant down the storm drain. All right, now that we've gotten that over with, let's continue on here. So the next step we got to do is obviously we got to dry everything out. I got to clean out my garage, which is a pretty big, disgusting mess because I've hosed it all out. And we're going to start by putting the water neck back on again. So before we put the water neck back on, obviously we're going to clean all this nasty old gasket back on. Or off. Oh man. This would never seal. I have a hard time thinking how it's even going to seal, even if it's clean, but alright, so now that I've got the water neck all cleaned up, as you can see right here, all nice and clean. Right here it says front, so we know that that goes towards the front. Thank you, Dodge engineers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our new thermostat. And we're going to put it down in that hole. There's a little lip that it sits on, so you don't have to worry about getting it off kilter at all. We're going to take our new gasket, which just peels right off this backing here, and stick it onto the water neck. Oops. It's hard with gloves because then the gasket wants to stick to your gloves. But everybody gives me hell that I don't wear gloves. So I'm wearing gloves. Punch the centers out. And just for sanity's sake, because that aluminum the aluminum manifold's a little bit beaten up, I'm going to put a dab of silicone on it. Wherever I left my pocket screwdriver. Gonna put a little bit on here. Nothing major, just a little bit. Just a light layer. And the silicone will fill any imperfections. Now with this guy tab facing towards the front, we're going to slide our water neck in. Oh. Little front tab, you got to get past the alternator bracket. There we go. Line it up. Here we go. Now we're going to take some anti-seize. Put a little on our 2 bolts. Now this is a steel thread going into an aluminum manifold. We want this job done right. I'm just hoping he hasn't badly damaged the cooling system by letting it rust up this badly. I finally got both bolts actually in there. He's probably 1/2 inch and I'm using a 13 mil. 13 mil is just a hair larger. Don't know what the torque spec is on these. All you need to do is snug them down. Notice I'm only using one hand. Again, we're threading this into aluminum. We don't want to damage the aluminum. That's about the 5th time I've hit my head on the GoPro now. Alright. So now we're going to put the water neck back, or the upper rad hose back on. Again, I don't know what this thing is because there's nothing here for it to bite onto. This guy here is just bonded to this hose with a special non-removable clamp they started to use at about these years. Go. Looks about right. Alright, so now taking our really big long nose pliers. I really ought to get a proper hose clamp tool. That would really come in handy. Okay, now we're going to put it back to where it was. We're going to make sure that the clamp is below the little flare in the fitting there. So that looks to be perfect. Give it a little tug. It looks to be okay. Now we're going to reach in underneath. We're going to feed the lower rad hose back onto the water pump. Now I'm going to go underneath to do this one up. Alright, so if we look down underneath here, there being the crank pulley, right there is the water pump, and right there is our lower rad hose. Now I'm going to need 2 hands to do that, but what we have to do is we have to slide the clamp down. If I can get my left hand free here, there is actually a flare in this pipe, right about here. It's that little bump in there that's usually cast into the pipe. The clamp has to actually be behind that, or else it will not seal properly. If it's on top of it, or God forbid you put it behind it, it'll never seal. Okay, so if you haven't already, tighten the coolant, or first off, loosen this off after you flush the radiator to let everything in the bottom half of the radiator drain back out. then tighten it back up. Because what we've done, so we're going to start out by just adding straight engine coolant. Because what we've done is by flushing the system, we've introduced a bunch of water into it. So if we put a 50-50 mix, chances are it's going to be a little too dilute. Oops. Now I'm going to go fill this guy up with a bit of water. Alright, so now she's at about a 50-50 mix. Looks a little frothy because I just used the hose to fill it up. What I like to do sometimes is just shake the rad hoses a little bit. Because as we near about the rad hose level of the radiator, it takes a little bit longer to drain down. So once the radiator or the coolant level gets to full, then we're going to start the engine. See, the cooling system's full. I've actually moved this hose around a little bit because there's more than likely going to be an air bubble right here, because that's the highest point in the system, where the rad cap should be the highest point in the system. So let's go start it up and let's keep bleeding the system. Could really use a spill-free funnel. A new cooling system work all that often. Still would be nice to have. So as you can see, it keeps burping out. Good time. Alright, so we checked everything, make sure our hoses are tight, nothing's leaking down below there. Doesn't look like it to me. Everything's cleaned off. Now I forgot to mention, so we're at the point this rad cap's getting real hot. I'm sure if I take it off it'll spray coolant everywhere. We got to get to the point where it stops burbling up. When it stops burbling air up and the coolant level stops getting lower, then we know that the cooling system's bled. Also, don't forget about adding coolant to your coolant recovery tank. Don't be afraid to add a little bit more to this, because in case you don't get every single last little air bubble out, this guy it'll feed into that guy. So, now we're done. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at our coolant temperature. It should be just below the halfway mark, which it is. Make sure everything's all good. Put our seatbelt on for safety. truck's got a nice heavy flywheel. Not like my truck, it's almost impossible to stall, which somehow I almost did it right there. This thing's also not running too great. It's got an upshift light just like my S10 did. Clutch is a little heavier than my truck for some reason. I don't know, I guess mine's got a more modern clutch actuator, I don't know. It's definitely a little more gutless though. It has 2 less cylinders. Now the reason I'm running it a little bit hard is because if it's going to overheat, this thing also needs a new clutch actuator. It's pretty bad. If it's going to overheat, then we want it to overheat now. That clutch actuator's shot. I can hardly shift gears. So I don't like the throw in this thing. It feels like it's so much longer than mine. But I got there's 1 more gear. Clutch is nice and easy though. It's really actually an easy vehicle to drive. I'm rev match downshifting so that or double clutch rev match downshifting so that oh, looks like I'm low on fuel actually. Or I'm not low on fuel. Really gotta hammer these brakes to get it to stop though. Oh, there we go. And that's how we changed the coolant and the thermostat on a 2000, I think this is 2003 Dodge Dakota 3.9. It's not that hard. It's easier than the 5.9 where you gotta take the alternator off to get at the thermostat. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm 6Speed Dakota, and you can always find me on Facebook at facebook.com/6speeddakota, Twitter at 6speeddakota, and I'm also on Google+, but I have no followers there, so I stopped kind of giving a rat's ass about that channel. Anyway, if you got a question, leave it in the comments. If you got a lengthy question, send me a message, or like my Facebook page and send me a message there. Or if you have a question that's not related to this video whatsoever, feel free to send me a message. I enjoy answering your questions. Anyway, I got to run. I'm under a bit of a time crunch with this thing. I got to do up the bill for them. So take it easy, everybody.